Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Inspire You. Today, I'm joined by my good friend and fellow content creator, Lamar Justice. Lamar, how are you today?
I'm good, Lesh. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thank you very much for agreeing to be a guest on here. It's an absolute privilege to have you on the podcast. I know we've got a lot of exciting things that we want to talk about today, so we're just going to dive straight in. I'm going to give you a brief introduction and just let people know a little bit about you. I'm going to give you the floor. So this is Lamar Justice. He's a fellow content creator on TikTok, amassed a very, very, generous following, and one of the humblest people I know, genuinely one of the kindest and humblest people I know. Creates a lot of very relatable content, around mental health, as around so many relatable topics, really. Lamar, why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about your journey and how you got to being on TikTok and creating content?
Of course. So, thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome.
You should do that for me every time I walk into a room.
I genuinely should. Every single time you walk into one of my lives now, that's how it's going to be. Roll out
So for me, I had created TikTok when it first started, and I got on there and it was just a bunch of children, honestly. And so I didn't really have, I heard of it and I didn't really think much of it. And then I created the page and I did nothing with it. And then COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, I got bored, like a lot of us did. And I started just making a couple of silly videos here and there. They went nowhere. And I want to say starting in November, I had broken up with my ex in Chicago.
Okay.
And I decided to create content because mentally, for me, it was the only way that I could get through that breakup. And it was a very, very bad breakup. It really affected me mentally. So I wanted to kind of create content that would, because I know I'm not the only one who suffers from depression, anxiety, thoughts of suicide, things of that nature. So I kind of wanted to create a platform where it was a free space of someone just telling their journey about how they were dealing with things and how they were dealing with life. And I really didn't talk about my ex. I just focused on the mental health portion of it.
Okay.
And dealing with it. And then from there, it created a kind of like its own
like a snowball effect.
Machine. And I just, snowball effect. And I went with it. And then I decided to also include humor because I think it's important to laugh through pain.
Absolutely.
Laughter heals the soul. And so my content it touches on many topics. It's just not one, because I'm not a one trick pony. And I don't think any human is a one trick pony. We all have different facets to our personalities, to our lives. And I wanted to show the progression of that.
Okay. So when you first started creating the content then, what was it about the breakup and what you had been through that kind of pushed you forward? Was it the pain? Were you utilizing and channeling that pain into the content itself?
It was more or less fear. Right. Fear of being alone, fear of surviving by myself.
Interesting. And so how, in terms of your journey now, moving forward in time, do you still feel that you have that fear, or do you feel that that fear has been alleviated somewhat as a result of the content that you've created and the messages that you spread with people?
To be honest, a year ago in November, I had broken up with my ex, and I'll just tell the story. He told me I had a month to get out. Right. It was in the winter. we had been together for 6 years. I left, a great career in Ohio and moved to Chicago, and I had nothing. I moved into his space. And when we broke up, I didn't have anything. So I was on the verge of becoming homeless.
Right.
And so it was a fear of that. And by creating this content, fast forward to a year later, I moved to San Antonio Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days ago. I'm still processing that. And I have my own place.
Okay.
And for me, it was the help of my therapist, my psychiatrist, and creating this content and having realized that there are so many people who have great advice out there, so many people who go through the same struggle, and I didn't feel alone anymore. So the fear kind of disappeared of not being able to make it on my own, and here I am.
That sounds like a great journey. I mean, going into it a little bit further, we have mentioned obviously depression already. You've touched a little bit, and I'm gonna put a disclaimer out at this point, because I know this is something that might be difficult for a lot of people to talk about, but I do think it's important, and I know it's something that's very close to your heart personally as well. So as a disclaimer to anyone who may be listening and watching, talking about attempted suicide. Now, it is one of those polarized topics that I feel a lot of people resonate with, because depression can lead you down a very dark spiral, and it can lead you into that kind of thought process. But I do feel, especially with content creators, that there is an element of, we're all trying to tell a story, we're all trying to share our journey with people, but I feel that a lot of us are still, scared to touch upon certain areas of our lives for fear of being seen as, okay, we're just trying to get sympathy now, or we're just trying to, get that kind of attention, what have you, when it's not. A lot of the stuff that we talk about is real stuff. It's real stuff that has happened either to us, somebody that we have known, or, be that a friend or relative. And I know that this is in particular a topic that you have touched a little bit on. And, what is it about this particular topic that resonates so much with you? Why are you so passionate about, attempted suicide?
Great question. And no one has actually asked me this question. For me, being able to have a platform where I can express my thought process has been very, very important to me, because it's like the concept where you're not the only one who, if you struggle, there are plenty of people who have struggled in the world and who are still struggling today.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't know them personally, right? You don't know every single human. So it feels like a singular entity where you're the only one who feels like you're struggling. You're the only one who feels like you're going through it, even though subconsciously you're not. So having this platform and being able to express that, I went to Thanksgiving dinner with my neighbors 2 doors down, and I didn't want to go. And it was after my attempt to suicide, and she knew about it. And she came over to the house in like this Mayflower dress. She's this, spunky personality. And she had no coat on, and it was November in Chicago, so it was super cold. And she said, "I'm going to stand out here at the front door until you come over." So I was like, well, I'm not going to leave her outside. So it was a way of her getting me out, because I just wanted to just wallow in my negative thoughts and just stay there. And when I went over to her house, I met her mother and I met her family. And the more I started to talk to them and get to know them, I felt for the first time in my entire life that I wasn't alone in what I was going through. I don't know what triggered me to just start talking about the recent events, the attempted suicide, the depression, the anxiety, but I did. And I'm so grateful that I did, because they told me, we've had that too. We have experienced that. We all see therapists. I grew up in a very religious background where Jesus was the answer for everything.
Mhm.
And I didn't trust therapists based off of how I was raised.
Mhm.
So with all of that being said, when I left her house and I came back home, I realized, wow, there are really people, I physically met people who are going through what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. And so that kind of pushed the train, if you will, for me to start discussing these things and putting it out there. And it became a passion of mine because there are people out there in this world who feel like they're alone. And I felt that way. And I don't want other people to feel like they're alone if they can see a real person letting them know, like, hey, you're not alone. I know exactly what you're going through. Maybe not that particular situation, but I know the feeling of depression. I know the feeling of suicide. I know the feeling of anxiety. So that's why I'm super passionate about it myself.
So we did. For those who are listening and watching, we actually did a very brief dual live quite recently, and one of the things that really resonated with me from that live, there was a quote that you mentioned, and it was the distinction between sympathy and empathy. And I just, it really stuck with me since we did that live, because there is a lot of people think that in order to be able to understand someone's journey, you have to have been on it. And that's not necessarily the case. You can still, and you put it so eloquently on that live, you can still sympathize with someone who has not been through something that, you have been through, or vice versa. But you can empathize with someone where you both have that shared, experience of having undergone the same traumas, the same experiences, and the same trials in life. But I think underpinning sympathy and empathy, what joins it together is just being kind, and just having a level of self-awareness and understanding that human beings are intricately linked by a level of understanding for one another. And I think as long as we don't lose our way, and I don't know if you can give me your thoughts on this in a second, but I think as long as we keep that in mind, we won't lose our way in terms of being able to be there for each other as a society, and as a people. And that's irrespective of, the things that may try and tear us apart, like nationalities or, cultures or, race, etc., gender, all that kind of stuff. The stuff that the media always tries to pull us apart for, the differences. I think as long as we have a mutual self-awareness and understanding for our differences, we can, live harmoniously and in peace. What do you think?
I completely agree. For me, that's a big, pusher of mine. I remember distinctively, my ex had passed away, and someone said to me, they literally at the funeral looked at me and said, "I'm so sorry. I know what you're going through."
Mm-hmm.
And I looked, and in that moment there were a lot of emotions, obviously. And I said, "Did your partner pass?" And they said, "No." Then you can't know what I'm going through. And that's when I realized in that moment that we as humans, no matter where you're from, we blur sympathy and empathy together as if they're one, and they're not. And as I said, as you quoted, as I said earlier in a previous slide, it's important to understand the distinction between the two first.
Yes.
If you understand the distinction between the two, you're more likely to be able to show whichever one is applicable to the situation you're in with someone else. So if your parent has passed and their parent has passed, then you show empathy. If your parent is still alive and theirs has passed, then you show sympathy. And it's understanding that we're all different nationalities, we're all different races, we're all different creeds and colors, cultures, but those are just differences as far as separating one human from the other. It doesn't mean that we all can't be one love.
Absolutely.
That we all can't.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like I said, underpinning all of it is just trying to be as kind as possible and trying to better ourselves as much as possible to be kind, you know.
Right.
So just moving the conversation onwards a little bit, to, you know, from talking about obviously kindness and this self-awareness that we've sort of touched upon already. Obviously, everybody listening and everybody watching this, you know, will be able to resonate with the fact that we are all on a journey of self-discovery. We are all on a journey to try and uncover who we are, to learn about ourselves, and to understand basically what it is that makes us passionate, what it is that lights our fire. Now, when it comes to the journey of self-discovery, what is it about your particular journey that has helped you discover who you are?
I believe in mantras,
Okay.
sayings, things of that nature. And for me, the mantra that really is at the forefront, always at my head, is life is a journey. If you're not learning, you're not living.
I love that.
And so for me, that has been the catapult for me along my entire journey. You know, since I started this self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we're afraid to look at ourselves in the mirror because we don't like what we see. And I said this on your previous live, the dual live that we did together. You have to become uncomfortable to become comfortable. So to do that, you have to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror, all of the flaws, all of everything. But the thing is, we have to realize we are not all flawed in the sense of every aspect of our entire existence. We have flaws, yes, but it's important to acknowledge the negative and it's important to acknowledge the positive, because it's just not one thing. We are not just one type of emotion. We are a multitude of different emotions. So I think it's important to acknowledge that you have fears, acknowledge that you are a good person, acknowledge that sometimes you can be a bad person, acknowledge all of that. When you can acknowledge it, you can appreciate it, then you can start to work on that self-discovery of what you want to be, because you can create and you can change anytime you want. It's your journey.
It is. And, you know, it's just, again, touching on what you said, you know, taking that accountability and just understanding that everything in life comes in pairs. And again, we talked about this again briefly on that live. Everything comes in pairs. It's the yin and yang, you know, philosophy. There is no good without bad. Mm-hmm. There is no pain without happiness. You know, there is no joy without sadness. You know, everything has an inverse. And it's only when you experience one that you can then appreciate the other. You know, in order to understand what true joy is, you have to first understand what true sadness is, because you have to experience all of these emotions in life, and you have to go through all of these experiences in order to determine, okay, I don't like this, but I do like this, and I want more of this in my life because I'm responding to this. This is making me glow. This is bringing me joy, bringing me happiness. This is filling my soul. So it's knowing how to navigate the various emotions in your life and turning a negative into a positive. And I talk about this a lot, you know, with people. You can take any negative experience and you can say, a lot of people will take a negative experience, you know, and they'll say, well, this horrible thing happened to me. And now I'm going to be the victim because this horrible thing happened to me and I can't see anything coming up. And I'm saying, well, hang on a minute. Did you learn a lesson from that negative experience? Well, yes. Okay, then there's your positive. There's your lesson. Don't do that again, or don't go into that situation again. Don't react in a way that you did previously in the future. Because again, it's all part of the growth. It's all part of understanding and learning from those experiences. And
exactly. You have to be willing to go You have to be willing to go deeper within yourself, to find who you truly are. The thing is, self-discovery is not there's not really an end result of self-discovery. Self-discovery is your entire life. It's until the day you die. You can always reinvent, you can always self-discover. It's not that there's an end goal. Like, I have discovered myself, I am, and that is it. It's not like that, because life moves in different ways constantly. We're throwing curveballs constantly. So we have to be willing to bend with the mode of life and have that mindset to know that this is a journey. This particular experience happened, learn from that particular experience and move on. Now, there may be another experience that is similar, but not the exact same. But if you have that mindset that, oh, I've already learned that, no, life is continuously learning you. You are continuously being learned by life. It's not life, it's not you learn life. Life learns you.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
That makes sense.
I've never heard it described like that. Life learns you. That is incredible. And
life learns you. You don't learn life.
Here's the thing, like I one of the things that always makes me laugh is when I hear people, because people sometimes come to me and they ask me, about my experiences from traveling, and they want to know, like, what did you learn about yourself? Did you come back enlightened? Did you come back self-discovered? And I'm like, no, I came back a different person. And I came back recognizing that the journey I went on when I went traveling to discover myself, I came back a different person, and that different person, I now have to discover that person. So it's like you say, life moves continuously. And I have people come to me and say, oh, I've done 6 months traveling. I know who I am now. I've discovered myself. And I'm like, no, you haven't, because you're a different person to who you were when you left. And the person that exists now, you've now got to unpack that person, and you've got to unravel that person. Don't stop and think to yourself that you're going to have this, as Matthew McConaughey did a podcast a while ago, and he talked about this idea of having this ta-da moment. And it's like, there is no ta-da moment. There is no moment where you're going to sit there and you're going to go, I've arrived. I'm here now. This is me. No, you're constantly growing, learning, evolving, throughout your entire life. And I think the sooner that people learn to appreciate that and accept it, the sweeter life becomes and the easier life becomes. But
the problem, that's the issue, is that we live in a society where, and it's across the society, it's not just in America, it's all over the world, where there's always an end result to whatever you do. You work, you get paid. You go to sleep, you wake up. You go to work, you come home. And it's because we have that mindset, we always think that there's an end to something. So if I start a journey of self-discovery, there has to be an end so that I can start enjoying life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
the point is
conditional happiness. It's conditional happiness.
Yes.
And it's one of the biggest flaws of our modern day society. People saying, I will be happy when I have this job. I'll be happy when I have this car. I'll be happy when I have this relationship. No, stop prolonging your happiness based on conditional things that may or may not happen at some point down the line. You may never achieve that dream job that you think is going to fulfill you. Life may throw you in a completely different direction and give you a career that you weren't even thinking of. And then what are you going to say? That you're still unresolved, that you're still unhappy because you don't have that dream job that you were thinking of? You're prolonging it. And I don't understand why people have this mentality still in a modern day society.
It's people have it, I think, based off of life experiences, self-doubt, and lack of self-preservation. For me, I always say the tough love, you always have to give yourself tough love.
Absolutely.
In the sense of, you are happy when you choose to be happy. That's when you're happy. When you choose to be happy, no matter what, then that is when the happiness begins, because it's not based off of materials. It's not based off of things that you checked off your wish list. It is, happiness is a choice. It is not something that you just achieve. It's a choice. That's the achievement. It's choosing to be happy, just as much as you choose to be sad. If you can choose to be sad, why can't you choose to be happy? And that's a question that we all have to ask ourselves when we're in those self-deprivation moments. We have to ask ourselves, if I'm choosing to focus on my negative thoughts, why can't I choose to focus on positive? It's not about what's around you. It's not about what you have. It's not about what's in front of you. It's a choice that you have to make internally. That
do you know what I think? I think part of the problem is
happiness.
I think part of the problem is that a lot of people out there, and I'm going to say this very slowly for people watching and listening, because I think I'm going to hit a few heartstrings here. I think a lot of people are genuinely scared to be happy.
Why?
I think people genuinely would not know what to do with themselves if they experienced happiness on a more frequent basis. I think we have become so conditioned by, our society and, the criticisms that we experience and the failures that we undergo, that it's become the norm for us to sit more in the negative than it is in the positive. And a lot of people, I think, fear flipping that switch and sitting and saying to themselves, what would it actually feel like if I woke up and chose to be happy on a more frequent basis? They wouldn't know what to do with themselves, because they then wouldn't be able to complain. They wouldn't be able to, create excuses for why their life isn't the way it is, because they would accept that their life is the way it is and they're happy with that right now. And I think that fear gets in the way of a lot of people actually waking up and choosing joy every day. I genuinely do. I see it in people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about this idea of vibes as well. And this is another topic that's very close, I know, to both our hearts, because one of the biggest things I think that a lot of people struggle with as well is standing in their own authenticity. Because let's face it, 7 billion people on this planet. We're all different. You never want to be a carbon copy of somebody else, because then you're not you. But I think a lot of people fear rejection, and they fear not being accepted by their peers or people around them, that they try to mold themselves into a version of other people, or they try to force, connections, or, this, okay, I've got this in common with this person will now be my friend, And for me, one of the things, and I don't know about you as part of your journey, I'm a goofy, jokey, practical joke kind of guy. I like to dance around in my kitchen. I like to sing at the top of my lungs. I like to be a 5-year-old kid, on the weekend, because life is stressful enough as it is anyway, without laughing, And I don't apologize for it, but a lot of people would say to me, dude, come on, you're 31, you're a lawyer, act a bit more mature. I'm like, I am mature. I'm mature 5 days of the week when I'm at work, But when the weekend comes, or when I'm with my friends outside of work, does that mean I can't act like a 5-year-old child? If I want to be a bit goofy and a bit playful and all the rest of it? Of course it doesn't, because that's my personality. That's who I am. And as far as I'm concerned, that's where I feel most present. That's where I feel at home. Standing in that light and just being like, do you know what? I'm not going to take life too seriously, because I'm only going to get one shot at it anyway.
Yeah, but what you just said, when people say, come on, you're acting like a 5-year-old. When someone says that, they're inflicting an impression onto you. And then the end result is that you are expected to be exactly just like them, or whatever they think you should do or be. That's a form, to me, that's a form of judgment. Now, the judgment is not necessarily negative. It's because that's not what they would do. They're saying that you shouldn't do that either because of an age stipulation. That leads into why, in this society that we live in across the world, why people feel like they have to be someone else. Take, for instance, and this is just an example, but when I was growing up, Paris Hilton was a big thing. the way she dressed, the way she looked. And because so many people adored and loved her, so many other people felt, well, if this is the standard, then I have to be like her to feel beautiful. I have to look like her to have friends. And it's just not her. She is her own person. And there are so many other celebrities, and there's so many other iconic people, singers, artists, actors, that we all, because of what we see on the screen, we feel as though, and what media says, we feel as though we have to be like them, instead of creating and cultivating what feels right for us, out of fear that you're going to be judged because you're not like them. It's the animals, the lemmings.
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Life is too short to become a lemming when you can be a tiger.
I love that. Very true. Very true. You can be.
Lemmings all follow the same thing. And I'm like, I don't want to be a lemming. I want to be a tiger. You can use any animal, right? Life is too short to be a lemming. I want to be a koala. Whatever it is, that's the whole concept. I don't want to be like someone else. I want to be myself. But to come to that realization that you want to be yourself, you, once again, have to take that step back and look in the mirror and say, why am I not that way? Why am I not choosing to be myself? It's a constant asking yourself questions. There's nothing wrong with acting however you feel is comfortable for you. Only you know what you can take mentally. I am goofy, just like you. I will put on a wig and create crazy funny videos, because that's just that for me, for my life experiences. If I can go in that room and throw on a wig and just act silly as all get out, then that makes me happy. I am okay with that. I lost a partner and I lived and I survived. I had a heart attack or a stroke. I had a stroke 8 years ago. I survived and I lived that. I literally have attempted suicide twice and I've lived that. So for me, if throwing on a wig makes someone uncomfortable, that's on them. That's not on me. You cannot take on other people's emotions and feelings. You can only handle your own.
And I think, I don't know if you resonate with this, because I'm an empath. So for me, taking on the emotions and feelings of other people is instinctive. It's, empaths have this kind of radar for sensing that, when somebody is feeling down, or when somebody is not, they're having a bad day, and you want to reach out and you want to help people. And you sometimes have to draw the line in terms of what it means to help someone. And when you're being just a little bit too kind of like, okay, I need to leave this person now to their own process, because I need to recognize that this is their journey. I'm here in a capacity if they need support, but this is not my emotion. This is not my experience. And I need to not take it on board as my own, because this person has to then go and they have to live that experience themselves and learn from it and, grow from it. And I think empaths in particular do struggle with that, with maintaining that kind of, that distinction.
Yeah, I would agree. I was unfamiliar with the term empath before I started creating, my videos or my content about depression and anxiety. I was unfamiliar with that particular term, and people were constantly telling me that. I can see it now in the sense of just like my personality and who I am. And that's been a journey as well, is knowing how far you can go with helping others.
Yeah.
But still maintaining self-preservation, because you can't help everybody as much as you want to. You can't help everyone. You have to remain or contain some self-preservation so that you are able to help when you can. And you cannot beat yourself up because you can't help everyone, because that's something that empaths do as well. They beat themselves up because they're not able to help every single person. Just know and understand that there's only so much you can do as one person. And that's okay. Whatever it is that you can do is enough. Know that that is enough.
Lamar,
if you know in your heart's heart that you did everything you could, then that's all that matters.
Lamar, what advice would you offer for somebody who came to you and said, I want to grow more as a person and I want to develop myself as a person, but I don't know how to go about attracting my own vibe? What would you say to that person?
Honestly, the first question I would ask is, who are you? You have to understand yourself first to understand what it is you want to attract. So whatever kind of people it is that you want to attract, you have to be able to answer that question about who you are and what you're about and what you value, because you want that in other people as well. You also want to keep in mind that, as I said, you don't want a whole bunch of lemmings, right?
Yeah.
You want different personalities. So understanding your limits and understanding that in your particular vibe or your particular tribe, there's a multitude of different personalities, a multitude of different people that offer something different that you can inspire others and that they can inspire you. I don't want to be friends with someone who is just like me and just have all friends who are just like me, because in that instance, I'm not growing. I want friends who are not like me. I want to be friends with people, who come from different walks of life, because then you're able to learn from each other. You can't learn if you're just looking at the same thing. Life is like a mule train. If you're at the front of the train, all the scenery is the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have so many quotes that I live off of.
And I think what you're saying is so true. In order to attract the right people into your life, you have to demonstrate that you are that person. Like attracts like. And I'm not saying force yourself to be somebody that you're not. Naturally and organically become the person that you were supposed to be. Stand in your own power, and accept yourself for who you are. I've learned to appreciate the fact.
But how do you do that?
I think it starts with it has to start with loving yourself more. It has to. I think too many people genuinely do not love themselves enough. They continuously criticize themselves, or they. And here's the thing: a lot of people will say, "Well, I'm a very negative person because people are negative towards me." And when people come to me with that kind of attitude, I always say to them, "Okay, let's challenge this. How many people in the last week have actually said something negative to you?" And they'll say, I don't know, 7 or 8 people have given me like a negative comment or whatever, or said something or done something that made me feel bad. Okay, 7 or 8 people. Let's run with that. Now answer me this. How many of the thoughts over the past week that you've had day to day, and we're talking thousands of thoughts per day, by the way, how many of those thoughts that you've had with yourself, those internal conversations that you've had with yourself, have been negative? And people then go, whoa. And I'm like, you see my point? It's not other people. You can be the victim and you can say that, yes, okay, other people are being negative towards you, but it's a very small percentage of why you are actually living in that negative mentality. Because what actually happens is you take on those half a dozen comments or experiences and you multiply them in your own mind. You start to overthink. And you start to replicate them into other areas of your life, saying, well, this person thinks I'm no good at this, therefore I must not be good at this as well. And you then start battling with your own internal demons and saying to yourself, all these negative things in your own head, which actually aren't true. You're creating your own paradigm. You're creating your own reality. And it's not from other people. It's from you. You have a conscious choice whether or not you sit and you maintain those negative thought patterns. That's your choice.
But it's the realization of that. It's the realization of understanding that you have control. Yes. When you are stuck in a situation, for me, an example, when I was stuck in my thought process, I thought that everything was going bad and that there was nothing that I could do. And I wallowed in those negative thoughts because I didn't think, right? And I didn't feel as though I had control. I have control on all of the thoughts in the sense of how I feel about myself.
Yes.
You don't have control over a random thought. If I say pink elephant, you are going to instantly think or imagine what a pink elephant looks like.
Yeah.
It's impossible not to. Well, he said pink elephant. That's random. Like, why would you say, and it rolls, right? You can't control that, right? And that's the concept of the mind is one of the most intricate, beautiful, scary places to obviously be. But with that being said, I can't control the concept of a pink elephant, but I can control I'm a bad person. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve love. Because those are thoughts that you put in your head and that you can control. Now, yes, it takes time, right? We can't just automatically snap our fingers and magically, I don't feel those thoughts anymore. It's a daily process. It's a daily struggle. It is every single day. But the more you actually put the effort and the work and controlling those thoughts and challenging those thoughts, the more you start to self-discover, self-love, create self-preservation. And within that, people can see that. People can see your aura. People can see who you are. No matter how much you try, people can see through the bullshit stuff, bullcrap. I don't know if I can curse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can. It's fine. And I think, ultimately it comes down to like
I'm so passionate.
He said bullshit. Oh no. Oh no. No, it's fine. We'll put a disclaimer at the bottom of the episode. But I think that people generally have a very good radar nowadays for when someone is not being authentic. And I think that pushes a lot of people away. When you're trying to be something that you're not and people sense it, they want to run because they're like, this person is trying to be something they're not. And it makes you question their intentions. It makes you question whether they have some kind of ulterior motive. And, why are they not being themselves? What is it an insecurity thing? Or are they trying to manipulate me or a situation or be something that they're not because they don't understand themselves? And again, just rounding this topic off, I think, what we've said is, discovering yourself is, like you say, a lifelong process. When you can learn to unpack certain areas of yourself and accept yourself through the process of self-love and, not seeking people's validation and standing true to yourself, you will create that vibe, which then attracts other people to you. And then you form your own tribe. You form your tribe of people who are just as like-minded, just as open-hearted, just as authentic. I've always said that I wanted loyal and generous people around me. Loyal, generous people who wear their heart on their sleeves, who aren't afraid to be vulnerable. And I realized that in order to do that, I need to be that, No one's going to want to hang around with me who possesses those qualities if I'm not that myself, And
I love how you're like the people that you want to surround yourself with. It's a very generalized concept and it's not specific.
Yeah, and I think I try.
Right, and so it's loyal, generous, loving, kind. Those are general, very general. It's not, I want someone who always makes me laugh no matter what. I mean, you don't want to be, like when you're looking for a tribe where you're so specific on an individual, you're looking for impossibility, like not impossibility, impossible. You're looking for impossible. And when you look for impossible, you are going to get nothing because it's impossible.
Very true.
No one, because you're not that. You're not funny 24/7, no matter how much you think you are. You're not funny. I used to think I was funny 24/7.
My family would agree with you on that one. They would 100% agree with you on that one.
Right. So and I just, when you get out of that mindset of realizing and understanding that you are not that which you think you are, you are more willing and more able to attract more people when you start to be yourself. And to end that off, to cut that, there are people out there. Well, I've always been my authentic self, and I still haven't attracted anyone.
Yeah.
Build it and they will come. Be patient.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't.
Absolutely true. It does not happen overnight. And again, just segueing away from this, but again, in a kind of interesting way, like talking about, this positive mentality, because again, this is something that a lot of us strive, when it comes to TikTok now, a lot of us strive to remain on what we call fun talk, positive TikTok, we try to stay on that side of it. But occasionally life trips us up and we go through experiences and we find, that we have gone into a different area of the app, and we're suddenly met with, negativity or criticism or this, that, and the other. And we try to steer ourselves back as quickly as possible. But again, it's the shift, because life, I've always said life is a wave. You have your ups and downs. It's like surfing a wave. You're going to crash and burn at times, but then you're going to get back up and you're going to ride that wave again. But how do you go about, because everyone's different, how do you go about maintaining your positive mindset? Do you have any particular things that you do that keep you, when you're in that negative headspace and you need to steer back? What do you do to steer yourself back?
That's a great question. Now let's go to a break and then we'll come back. No,
we're going to interrupt this podcast for a commercial break.
Shit, what do I say? For me, honestly, I have a piece of paper. I call it my hot thoughts. And okay. Essentially, I think of whatever the topic is, whatever the thought is, I write down that negative thought. And then I write down the emotions that I'm feeling as that thought is there. Then I write down, with all of that, what's the automatic thought to that? I write down a list of that. What's my evidence? I guess the process is challenge those negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. If you're not challenging your negative thoughts, because when you realize it, those negative thoughts are thoughts that you created, right? So someone can say you are ugly. Yeah. You take that in, you internalize that, you have now created, well, I am ugly. I have now internally agreed with them because someone said it. So it's the evidence. That's your evidence that you're ugly because someone said you're ugly. Is that real evidence though? What is your, so one person, that's the thing. How someone feels about you doesn't necessarily have to be how you feel about you, right? So that's someone else's evidence. That's not your evidence.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's coming to the concept of challenging those thoughts, because if you don't challenge your negative thoughts, they will consume you and you will end up in a black sphere that you can never get out of until you become uncomfortable to become comfortable. Challenge those thoughts. So that's what helps me get out of my negative thoughts. I used to sit in them for hours and days. Now, when a negative thought comes, I'm better now, but I'm still not perfect, and I don't ever want to be perfect. Depending on what the thought is, it's 20 minutes to an hour, sometimes a few hours. Mm-hmm. But I'm proud of the journey that I've come from. That's my evidence that I don't have to stay there, because I've proven to myself, Lamar, you thought about this a month ago and you only thought about it for 5 minutes. That's your evidence that you don't have to stay there. You don't, because you got out of it in 5 minutes, literally. So when I remember that, or I honestly, I have a notepad that I am constantly writing. Are you kidding? I'm writing in this constantly. Get a notepad. Write your thoughts down, write everything down. I always say, journal your thoughts, journal your moods, journal all of it, because that is your hard evidence. This is your hard evidence that whatever you thought, put dates on it. So scroll through it and periodically read through it, because it's you're proving to yourself, I see it. I wrote it down. It's not just a memory base. I wrote it down so I can reference this back. It's always a good reference. This thought came in my head 4 weeks ago. I got over it within 5 minutes. Going back and doing that, I'm not spending 5 minutes to do that. I remember that I wrote it down, or even if I didn't remember, just glancing over it. That's less than 5 minutes. So that's what helps me, is journaling my negative thoughts and challenging them. I think I answered your question. Did I? I hope I did.
And for those who are watching and listening, what you don't actually realize is this entire interview, he's been sitting there and he's been scribbling stuff down like the entire time. Like, but it's good. It's good that you have that outlet, you know, in terms of journaling or just being creative. You know, creating videos is one thing, like, and putting your passion into that. But you have to have an element as well where, you know, you're doing something, and I've always talked about this, you know, very, very emphatically. I've talked about this idea of, you know, being able to take what's up here in your mind and releasing it, getting it out somewhere. And there's something so cathartic about, you know, putting pen to paper, you know, and just being able to do something that makes you feel like you're getting all this head trash out. And you're putting it into something creative where you can organize it, or you can structure it, or you can say, right, okay, I've put it down in this form now, and now I can see it more structurally, and I can start to tackle it. It's not just a mess in my head anymore, you know, and I'm trying to wade through it, and I'm getting anxiety, and I'm getting, you know, depression as a result of it. There's a form to it now. It's on a piece of paper.
It has to come out of here. It has to come out of here. Absolutely,
100%. And, you know, like I said, maintaining this positive mindset is something that we don't want people to get the wrong idea. You're never going to be able to maintain this positive mindset. And I've talked about this already, you know, throughout your entire life. Life is a wave, yin and yang. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. But your bad days are there to teach you as much as your good days. Utilize them, learn from them. Understand that life isn't always going to be beautiful. Life isn't always going to be perfect. But God damn it, you know, it can be if you allow yourself to take the lessons from the bad days and apply them to your good days so that you can make the good days great. I think that's a very, very big part of it for me anyway. And I mean, apart from journaling, do you find that there's anything else that you do on a day-to-day? Gratitude, is that a big part of your day-to-day routine, would you say?
No.
Okay. No, that's fine.
That's the thing is, that's me being completely honest.
That's fair.
It used to be.
Okay.
And that's the most beautiful thing about life in general. I have a goal. Okay. My goal is that I want to love myself more. And for me, writing it down wasn't enough. So I would look at myself in the mirror and I would tell myself, I love you. It wasn't a matter of whether I believed it in that moment. It was me saying that. I love you. There were days where I would say it and I didn't feel it and I was just like, whatever, but I said it anyways. And then there were days where I would just start crying profusely, just tears running down my face. And then it got to the point, it started to evolve. And it went from, I love you, that now I look at myself in the mirror and I say, you a badass bitch. Go run some shit today. You know, that's what it's evolved to. And I mean, like, and that's the thing, like, I don't tell people that, but I don't mind saying it. But I look at myself in the mirror and I say, you a badass bitch. Go run some shit today. And I mean, like, not ruin, but run some shit. Whatever. I mean, like, and for me, run some shit just means go make today a great day, right? So it evolved from, because the thing is, I now love myself. Not that that's an end result, but I don't feel like I need to stop. I need to continue to say, I love myself. Gratitude was part of that in the very beginning, being grateful for the place that I'm at. Now it's more or less maintaining. It's maintaining my mental health. At first, it was working on it. So at the beginning, gratitude is one of the most important things and the self-discovery and the journey, and make a list. Because I'm telling you, that list is going to evolve to something else when you feel like you have loved yourself enough to move on to something else. Not that you've accomplished love and that's it. Because there are going to be some days where you just be like, okay, today is not the day. I'm not loving myself today. So I need to figure out what I need to do to love myself. Not that it's something that's a daily struggle, right? But like you said, there are going to be bad days and good days. But just because I'm having one bad day after, months of loving myself doesn't mean all of a sudden I am automatically have that fear that I don't love myself anymore, right? So for me, gratitude is needed in the beginning, and some people need it and use it throughout the rest of their life. Not that I'm not grateful, but for me, gratitude has evolved into understanding that I am not perfect, knowing that I'm not perfect, and being okay with where I am and who I am. If that makes sense. So that's evolved for me.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. For me, gratitude is still very much a part of my.
It's just a form of gratitude.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a form of gratitude as well.
It's a form of gratitude. So I guess I am. Yeah, I do gratitude. Look, come full circle. Circle of life, Lion King.
I can actually picture you doing that in the mirror as well. I can actually picture you waking up every day. I'm a badass bitch. With the finger.
Now go run some shit.
With the finger snap and the head curl, just the whole. I can see it.
I do it every morning when I wake up before I brush my teeth.
Has to be.
What'd you say?
Has to be with the wig.
I should, I should just put that wig on and just say, "You a badass bitch." Now go run some shit.
I'm gonna have to incorporate that one. I'll let you know how it goes. So
please
again, just as a final topic to cover, and then we'll do a few questions at the end as well. But one of the things I wanted to talk about to you a little bit about, and this is I think where we differentiate a little bit in terms of our approach to our content, and I think this is probably one of the biggest distinctions between us. And we had a chat about this just prior to the interview. For those who are listening and watching, dealing with and defending yourself against criticism. Now, we both have a slightly different stance on this. Now, before I go into mine, I want you to tell me a little bit about yours and why you've adopted the mentality that you have when it comes to dealing with criticism, trolls, and people basically trying to tear you down just for being you.
That's the funny thing where no one knows that. No one knows all of the hate, and you've seen my content.
Yeah,
I don't have any hateful content. That's not what I create. I create positive content and laughter. I have sad videos because we all have bad days, so I have it all. But none of my content is negative, and so I get a lot of hate messages on a regular basis. I personally, and this is me, I don't give it energy. You won't see me making reply videos about it. And that's the thing. It's knowing what works best for you. I can be reactional, and that was my problem. I was always reactional. Not to judge, because reactional is okay, but for me, reactional turned out to be something that it wasn't necessarily productive for my well-being. So I only give energy towards things that I feel is important to me. If there is a comment that I feel like I need to make a video to, I will. I haven't, because I haven't felt the need to. I choose to be in my space. I choose not to allow how other people feel about me, whether good or bad, to affect my own well-being, because I believe in self-preservation of who I am. So many years I allowed people to treat me the way that they thought I should be treated, talk to me the way that they think I should be treated. My approach is different. I respectfully don't agree with you. And that's fine. You can feel that I'm this and I'm fake and I'm whatever. That's your personal opinion, and you're entitled to that. But I'm in a place where I don't have to give that energy. I'm preserving my energy for something that I choose that's going to be productive. And that's going to be meanwhile for me. Reactions in general is based off of personal experiences. We all come from different walks of life. What works best for you may not work best for someone else, and that's fine. I don't judge people who are reactional because I used to be reactional myself. And damn it, I will be reactional when I want to be but see, that's the thing.
Okay, Lamar.
It's control. Okay, look. Lesh, a bitch can be reactional, okay? Still can to this day. Don't fuck with me, okay? I'm kind, but I will look. I'll drag a bitch to the dirt. They won't think twice about it. But see, that's the thing. Like for me, with that mindset, it's I control when I react, and I love that. So the thing is, I'm not an emotional reactor anymore. If I choose to react, it's because I'm choosing to react. So if somebody says you a negative person and I create a video off of that and say, fuck you, bitch, you don't fucking know me, you don't know shit about me, then that's me making that choice. So if you see a video of me reacting, then that's a conscious decision that I made. It's not because someone forced me. It's not because I'm in my emotions or whatever. It's a choice. I'm choosing to react when I want to react, how I react, because I'm choosing to give my energy where I think it's best because it's my life. And how do you react?
So here's exactly what you just said. I can be reactive, but I mean, I get a lot of, I do some polarized content now. I didn't used to. I used to be very much a kind of play it soft on TikTok. And I've recently branched out to doing what some people are, describing as more polarized content, because I talk about relationships, I talk about dating, I talk about, a lot of more in-depth mental health stuff as well. And the first thing that I always say to people is, look, the views and opinions that I express in my videos are mine and mine alone. Now, if people jump on board with what I'm saying, great. If they don't and they want to argue with me, great. I don't profess to be whatever, this, that, and the other, but the simple fact of the matter is some people take it personally. Some people take it very personally when they see a video and they start to attack you and they say, how dare you talk about this, or how dare you talk, And I'm like, look, okay, the majority of the time I'll ignore those comments. But if you get one that is sometimes, it's sometimes so obvious that the person is dealing with something themselves and they're attacking you because they're projecting. One of the biggest things I always talk about is projection, and I like to make a statement about that because I think it's something that a lot of people should become more aware of. So I'm using my reactions to those negative comments as a learning opportunity for other people to say, look, the reason that this person is attacking me in this video with this comment isn't because of anything I've said. It's because of their reaction to it and how they've interpreted it. And it's because they're seeing it through the lens of whatever it is that they're currently going through. And that's forcing them to react in the way that they're reacting, And I think when I do that in videos, I like to think that I'm showing people that it's not about what I'm saying or doing. It's about the other person. And sometimes what we need to do when we look at a situation, we react to it in a particular way, we need to start taking accountability for ourselves a little bit more and checking in with ourselves as to why we react to a situation negatively. I've reacted to situations negatively in the past. I hold my hands up. But the simple fact of the matter is, I've walked away from those situations later and gone, do you know what? Should have done better there. Should have done better. I pull myself up and I say, no, next time I am going to pause and take stock, and I'm going to not react in that way. Similar to how you, with your journaling. I make a mental note and I say to myself, right, where is the area for growth? Where is the room for improvement here? The area of improvement here is that I should have, in hindsight, and hindsight's a beautiful thing, hindsight, I should have reacted to that in a completely different manner, but because I was emotional and I was acting on my emotions, I didn't give myself that.
And how can I react differently going forward? You right there, that's challenging your thoughts.
Yes.
That's acknowledging yourself. And it's not about putting yourself in check. It's about literally understanding and taking those uncomfortable thoughts because we don't want to do that. We react to something and then we want to forget about it. And then we think and we realize like, oh, I shouldn't have reacted that way. But when you, Jesus, Lamar, so handsome, you react that way. And then you don't challenge yourself. How are you growing as a human? If you're not challenging these thoughts, you're not challenging, the previous, things that happened. You're not doing the hindsight and what could I have done differently? Did I do it right or whatever? Like that's learning yourself and that's learning who you are. I completely agree. Now, if you're talking about reaction videos, I have done those before, those type of videos. I've never done who the fuck you think you talking to? I've never done one of those. But the other ones I have done, like, hey, this is a teachable moment. Let's make this because I think, like you said, it's important for people to see you don't always have to react because you've seen that side of TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I grab a bag of popcorn and a beer or a glass of wine, and I just like, I'm like, oh my God. I don't do it. But I mean, damn it, I'm gonna be honest. I grab a bag of popcorn and I'm in the background like, oh shit, bitch. But for me,
I've been on that side of TikTok. I've seen it firsthand. And again, I've taken accountability and I've said, no, never again. I don't want to be in that arena. Because you're in that arena and you're then surrounding yourself with the wrong people who are bringing down your vibrational energy, who are slowly undoing all the work that you've done on yourself, and you're lowering yourself to their level. And you don't want to lower yourself to what you want to say to people is you say, look, you're playing at this level, okay? And for those who are listening to this on Spotify, I'm gesturing, my hand in a low fashion, but you're playing on this low level. I don't play at that level. I play up here, okay? It's fun up here, and I'm happy up here, and I love playing at this level. If you want to play at this level, then come and join me. But I'm not going to come and play at your level by lowering myself to a level that I've already played at and didn't have fun. Because I'm now playing at a level where I'm having fun and I'm joyful and I'm harmonious and I'm standing in my authenticity, and I'm protecting my light against people who are going to challenge me and tell me that I'm not being authentic. Because every single day I know the work I'm putting into myself, and the work that I'm, the self-love that I'm putting into myself and the growth that I'm experiencing. So
self-preservation
entirely. So just a couple of questions before we finish. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, what's the biggest lesson you've learned since you've been a content creator?
I feel like this is like a job interview.
Not at all. I'm just curious because everyone.
I know. But I'm like, I didn't even prepare for some of these questions that I don't even know how to answer. Some of. Wait. So, what is the biggest thing that I've learned from TikTok?
Yeah.
So thus far, I have learned that no matter what you say and do, there are going to be people out there who are going to dislike you no matter what, who have already written you off.
Absolutely.
And that is okay.
And
that is quite okay.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said, and that's okay. You're not gonna be, somebody who everybody wants to follow. There will always be people who will be like, well, what's this person doing? Like, honestly, they're gonna question your motives, intentions, and all that kind of stuff. But I think as long as you are happy with where you are in your journey, I think that is the most important thing, because you know where you've come from.
And I'd say I'm not everybody's cup of tea. For the British people, I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah, and you don't have to be. Some people drink coffee, and that's absolutely fine.
I drink coffee and I drink. Yeah, and I think that's the most beautiful thing about life. It's okay if everybody doesn't like you, even if you have a great personality, because there are people out there who just for whatever the reasons are. The thing is, we can't control other people's thought process or reasonings. We can only control ourselves. So it's okay that other people feel the way they feel about you. Just know within yourself and be confident in how you feel, because that's the most important part. How you feel. It's not important how other people feel about you. It's important on how you feel about you.
Very true. Very true.
Because I feel great.
Good. I'm glad. And it shows in your content, and it shows, you know, in the way that you present yourself and the way you speak and interact with people, you know, and it's
no, don't stop. Keep going.
I guess just to finalize, what can we expect from you in the future? More content? Do you plan on branching out? Are there other things that you would like to explore in your life right now that you're, you know, thinking about?
I just moved to San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
3 days ago. Never been to Texas. So I'm going to explore this city. It's a different culture here than Chicago. I came from Chicago. Way of life in Texas is completely different than way of life in Chicago. So you're going to see a lot of content of what the hell. But not in like a mean way, but just, I mean, that's what I'm going to call it. What the hell? And it just essentially means it's like, it's all new. It's a new experience. It's a new journey. And so it's just, what the hell?
Have you bought a cowboy hat yet?
I'm glad you asked. I'll be right back.
He has, ladies and gentlemen, he has bought a cowboy hat. I can't wait to see this. For those of you listening on Spotify, you won't be able to see this, but you will be able to see it on YouTube. So, amazing. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love it. That is what you should wear.
Isn't it?
That is what you should wear every morning instead of the wig when you're doing the morning affirmation. Like, you got this, bitch. That one.
You a badass bitch. Now go out there and run some shit.
Yeah.
With a southern accent.
Yeah, very much so. Lamar, listen, thank you very much for joining me.
This is real quick.
Yeah, go on.
So this hat is apparently a summer hat.
Okay.
I need to get a felt hat for the winter. So I guess like a suede hat, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I've seen them in Nashville, actually.
Apparently in the wintertime, you wear felt hats. Like I said, what the hell?
I can't wait to see the content. Listen, Lamar, thank you very much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've had such fun. For those of you who are maybe not following Lamar already on TikTok, please go and follow him. I will put a link to his TikTok bio, you know, in the bottom of this video in the description. Please go and show his content some love, because he's, like I said, an absolutely fantastic human being, a good friend, and an amazing fellow content creator. Lamar, I wish you all the success in the future and lots of love to you. Thank you very much for joining me on an episode of Inspire You. Thank you.
Thank you, Les. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks. Until next time, guys. Bye-bye.